Welcome to the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast, where two guys drink coffee and talk about stuff. And now your hosts, Phil and Jimmy Nick.
3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, Phil here with the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast. We're in the studio today, and I've got my lovely and awesome sidekick. No, I wouldn't call you a sidekick. Co-host. Let's do that.
This is Jimmy the Nick.
Yeah, Jimmy the Nick.
Jimmy the Nick.
On KHBC
Right.
Radio.
Going to play the top 100 tunes on Billboard's Hot 100.
And coming in number 5 is Eddie Money.
I believe my time is up.
Let us pray.
Let us pray.
Well, folks, it's been a while since we've been on the airwaves. We're not going to get into all the things that have happened because it has been super crazy, but we're getting back into it. And that's the point of this episode, is getting back into it, catching up, and maybe getting some new headlines.
Yeah, because we've had some different things going on here at church since we last got together. It's been, a couple months, something like that?
Yeah, it's probably,
So, I see where this church is going. We're going in the right direction, and we're starting to grow. Mm-hmm. I see it as Christians, which we should be maturing constantly as we grow, but I think we're coming together on this. Now, there might have been had to be some separation come along during this period of time, because when you start growing like this and you start going in a certain direction, there's certain people that just, don't want to be a part of it. And I can understand that.
Yeah. And you're gonna have that if that's the case. Cool.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I don't know what you could say to somebody that really, because it's truly.
I can't think of anything really.
Truly, the Word of God we're talking about here, and I sat around and thought about it for a long time, as to what possibly you could say to them,
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything. And personally, I can't.
the only thing I could figure out was this.
Ah. Yeah,
Yes,
that would be one.
That was one of them. That was it. I want my Bible. Here it is. You better edit that.
That's totally not what I expected.
All right.
Well, there we go.
There we go. Well, that was we're glad to be back, and this will be our last podcast.
Oh, that's right. Here come the Google reviews.
Yeah, man, on this, brother. What happened here, man? Something went haywire here. Let me find it. Kind of missed the whole point on that. I believe this is what it's supposed to be.
Handle the truth.
That's supposed to be on
That's what it's supposed to be.
But I forgot he said something to him before he said that. Oh, man.
I don't know if I want to edit that out.
Oh, man.
Oh, anyways.
Let's pray. Let's pray.
There's been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on, a lot of happening, but that's okay.
We're good. We're good.
We're good. We're keep on trucking along.
Keep on trucking. I do not mean anything bad about that. It was a joke. It was a joke. But anyway.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, we are back in the studio. We're getting going. One of the problems that I think we've had too was I changed up my schedule a little bit during the week. And so the day that we were usually recording didn't ever kind of work out, and
that was always during my nap time.
That's right.
So,
that's right. Have your bologna sandwich and take a nap.
Take a nap.
But we're getting that back into because for my schedule, it's changed a little bit, and now it's opened up a little freedom to do this. And this is work, you know. You're not just get together and we can get together and talk about stuff, but as far as the audio side to my program kept crashing before we even started recording and had to fix that. So there's a lot of things that are getting going, but I'm excited. I'm starting to get back into this and get this. But for those that it's been a while or maybe you've forgotten, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, YouTube, Spreaker app. My gosh.
What else?
We're all over the place. Coffee with Phil and Jim at gmail.com. Those are all platforms that you can get in contact with us. You can keep up on the latest updates, latest podcasts, things we talk about, polls. We'll have occasional polls of stuff. And you can do that. And then if you want to start a conversation, maybe you want to lean in on a conversation we've had. Maybe you want to comment about the word that was used at the beginning of this podcast. You can definitely hit us up on our social media.
Well, I think we can probably leave that word in there, but you'll probably have to put a disclaimer up.
Yeah, that's our disclaimer.
Disclaimer, yeah. This does not represent the views of Highland Baptist Church.
That's right. That's right. That was a total error. You know what? You need to break down.
Was it an error?
I don't know.
I mean, I didn't intend it, but who knows?
You just need to break down and buy the YouTube subscription.
I guess
so you don't get the ads.
Don't get the ads. I know, I'm cheap.
So you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Well, I just bought me a new phone there, man.
I saw that.
It had a pretty one.
That is nice.
It does
looks
all
a little
kinds of
bigger.
things. Oh, it is bigger. It is bigger. Every time I get a new one, it's always bigger than the one before.
Next time it's gonna be like your.
It's gonna be like the original ones, about like that.
Yeah. Just touch screen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know. See, the older you get, the bigger they have to get the screen here so you can see what's on it.
Yeah.
Little small screens can't see that. But no, it's a good phone. It's a Samsung. And if they're listening, I'll take all the free ones you can pass this way.
Samsung.
Yes.
Well, iPhone just released their 11 series.
Yeah, I heard about that. They want, $500,000 for that thing? Something like that?
If you're a Samsung user, it does feel that way. If you're an Apple user, it's not so bad.
It's not so bad, huh?
Yeah,
I don't know.
The lowest one is like $699 or something.
Yeah, but you take that Samsung, the one you can fold out, and it's almost like a pad,
But those are breaking. Did you not see the reviews on that?
Well, the iPhone didn't even get off the pad. I mean, it fell apart. And they said it fell apart here as soon as they released it.
They're working out the tech.
Yeah. Always working it out. Yeah. We had that happen back when years ago when I was just a youngster working at a car dealership, and the General Motors, these pickups they had were coming out and they had this noise in the rear end all the time. Well, they sent it down to engineers, and they couldn't figure it out. They just said, "We don't know what's causing it. Just tell them we're working on it."
There you go. But you are working on it.
But they never did fix it. Never found a fix for
it. Apple actually fixes their stuff eventually.
I don't know.
Eventually.
I don't know. I don't buy from them.
I bought my first iPhone was the iPhone 4. That was my first iPhone. I went through all kinds of different ones, Motorola's to. I don't think I've ever owned a Samsung, but it's always Motorola's or whatever here and there. From Flip to BlackBerry. I owned a few Blackberries right before my iPhone purchase, and I was really scarce about it. I thought, man, iPhone. I don't want to get on this bandwagon, And then Verizon had a deal. And I ended up getting. It was back when you're not paying $800 for a phone. I actually got the iPhone for free.
Yeah.
And so I bought it and thought, okay, we're gonna do this. And
try her out.
Amy got one. I thought, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I love this. And never turned back.
Well, but the difference is you buy your phones from these left wingers. Now, I save mine. I buy mine from, of course, they're communists, but, hey, which one's better?
Wow.
I mean, so it's going downhill when you get a buy from a communist.
It's going way
Way
downhill. Way downhill. Well,
It's just our society at work, I think. So.
yeah. Well, it's almost like too. You don't even. You have to have a phone of some sort. I'm not saying you have to have a smartphone or.
Well, my
iPhone.
first one was a Western Electric.
What?
A Western Electric phone. You know, you picked it up at the house, you talked on it, you put it back.
Oh.
Made by Western Electric. So. You know, it had a cord on it. You can go so far with the thing, you know.
It's only about it.
So they made all the phones, in fact, and you could only rent them, you know.
Only rent 'em.
You know, rent them. It belonged to AT&T. What could you do?
Golly. You told me you had there.
Western Electric. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that is definitely old school. Did you ever have a rotary?
Actually, we did. That first phone I ever knew about was in Nebraska. And Ogallala went to the rotary phone right after we moved there. But prior to that, it was in a little place called Wallace. And you had to go through the operator. Mm-hmm. So you had so many cranks on that deal, set on the wall there, and had so many cranks. And then it was a party line, too. So you pick it up, you had to wait till somebody got off the line.
What?
And then my mother always complained that is that a woman up there at the, up at the phone office is listening in on everybody's call.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, we had it. I mean, and then when we moved to Wallace, Ogallala, they'd just gotten it. And my mother got a phone. And so instead of having to pay that monthly rental, she got it for life, a free phone for life. So when she went from Northwestern Bell down to Southwestern Bell, they honored that because it's all AT&T.
Oh, okay.
So anytime she wanted a phone, they just gave her a phone and never charged her no rental on it. So
you actually had to rent your phones out?
yeah, there's a rental price on the phone. I mean, you'd be surprised. What about your internet? Your Wi-Fi, your modem? Do you own it, or are you paying a fee to your Wi-Fi?
I actually own mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
But
charging anything on mine.
But that's a good point. I have, I don't know if it was Cox or AT&T, one of the two.
Cox will charge you.
I did lease it.
Yeah,
It was a
you lease it. That's what they did on the phones.
But I went like this next transfer because I transferred from AT&T to Cox because my new house, AT&T couldn't service.
Why is that? I mean, that's crazy in this town. People, well, I can get AT&T where I'm at, over where my daughter lives at.
Right.
No, you can't get it. Why? They only got one wire, 2 wires run through town. It depends which one you hook to.
That's what I don't.
It's crazy. It don't make any sense.
Maybe someone can clear that up for us. If you got the answer to that, comment on our Facebook or Instagram or something, or email us coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. I'm really because when I called AT&T to get it to switch it over, because I had AT&T at my old house,
Yeah.
to switch over to my new house, they said they couldn't service it.
Right.
And I thought, but I know people like on the block that have AT&T, and they said, well, I'm sorry, we can't service it. Well, I went up the chain and started talking to supervisors, trying to get an answer. Why can't you do this? And the last answer I got was because there's only so many points in the box, and if those boxes are full, you can't get AT&T.
Can't get AT&T. Huh?
And I was like, okay, because it's a new house, so
Yeah.
they have to pull the wire from the box.
Right.
So I ended up going to call. I had to cancel that, which we really liked AT&T.
Yeah. That's what I got for my Wi-Fi is AT&T.
Went to Cox and it's fine.
It's good till it quits working.
Or they jack up the price.
Or it quits working.
Yeah.
Well, they did. Here, I know, about a month ago, they sent me a new modem because the other one gave it up. I like this modem. It's a really good one. Solid looking.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like is when you turn them in,
Mm-hmm.
Take them over to UPS, boom, I get a text a day or two later.
Yeah.
It's been returned.
That's what we do. That's what we do with AT&T.
Yeah.
The lady right there emailed me paper. She said, print this out or show it on your phone.
Well, they just gave me a copy of the paper, and then a couple of days later, I got an email from AT&T said we've received your. Yeah. So that's quick. So, man, that's pretty good.
We were really happy, and the price and everything. AT&T,
Yeah.
Cox, they're kind of iffy. And the reason we changed we had Cox before AT&T. The reason we changed to AT&T was because Cox had a limit, like on the there was like 754 gigs.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're doing a lot of streaming and things like that, it adds up, and then you get to a certain part, and then it starts slowing down.
Yeah.
So that's why we went to
Well,
AT&T.
but AT&T, you get what, a trillion gigs?
I mean, it's
It's
truly
1,024 gigs
Yeah.
a month. And I'm never going to use it. So I don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
that's
it. You know. So.
Sure.
And I run my TV and my icebox and everything else.
Watch your sling.
My sling. I got my sling. Yeah, I got to have my
Yeah,
sling. You know.
That's right.
Basketball season's coming up, so and already into football, so we got all that
Yeah,
to take care
football
of.
season.
But anyway, are we going to talk about some Jesus today?
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording a little bit about the Jared Wilson, the pastor for Harvest that committed suicide. We kind of got into that. I've just on the Facebook feed here and there, I've been seeing different posts and stuff like that. You know, suicide is not anything to really joke around with or mess around with. It is something very serious to the effect of obviously death, you know. But I got to tell you, it for believers, I've seen this week on different news feeds, Facebook, Twitter, what have you, just different posts about Jared Wilson. There's a lot of believers out there that believe he's in hell right now because he committed suicide.
No. If you're saved, you're saved. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and I don't see how they get to that point of if it's suicide. One comment I saw, they said, "Well, isn't that the only unforgivable sin?" And
No.
I'm like, no, that's outside of God's character, isn't it? I mean, just.
Well, it's like in my old church. So one of our deacons, his wife had been ill. I think she suffered from cancer for a couple of years. Well, she died about a week later after the services and everything. He shot himself, killed himself. And that was one of our deacons, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so our church my old church, we had to go through that. You know, here you lose one of your leaders in the church, and through suicide. How do you deal with that? It's just like how's this congregation dealing with the fact that their pastor committed suicide? Christ didn't fail him, so there's something that happened in his life that he just couldn't get past.
Right.
And he wasn't willing. I don't know if he's willing or not to surrender to Christ, but that's what he dealt with, though, was suicide prevention. And the crazy thing, it was during Suicide Prevention Week that he killed himself. So.
Well, you have to, for Jared Wilson, you have to ask the question, because that was part of his, I guess, pastorate, his ministry.
It was his ministry.
Was suicidal prevention and
Right.
counseling and things like that. It's like what drew him to that point to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, and as Christians, where's our hope?
Right.
Where's
Well, it's like I say, what do you say to your congregation after that? I mean, this guy's supposed to be your pastor. And if he ain't going to hang around and he's not, surrendering himself to this, I mean, things are hard. They're tough. It's always is. And there's always hope. Anybody could off themselves off if they wanted to, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I've always been one of them people that I can't do it because I'm going to find out what's coming next.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always looked at it. What's next?
Yeah.
There's always something next. Even though you may go through hard times and bad times, and people do get depressed. I mean, it's a serious deal, but they do have medications for that too.
Yeah.
So if you're taking a medication, that'll help you with that. But that may be some kind of chemical imbalance or something there that might help cause that. But other than that, I still think you got to take it to Christ's feet and let Him deal with it.
Well, we're the people, for Christians. We're talking Christians and suicide,
right?
We're those people in those people's lives that are there to have somebody to lean in on them and to know them in a relationship.
Where's the support at from other members of the church in there?
Yeah.
Could it be because of the size of the church, it being a mega church as it is, that and a tendency to be within mega churches, there's not that close connection between all the different members of the church.
Right.
And so, and he was only been there 18 months anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so, he may not have been making the connections there. So where he had support at maybe at his old church, it wasn't with him there. And, not putting anything on Greg Laurie or anything, but
No, of course not.
but you never know what a person's going to do and how they're going to react. They can act like they got their lives completely together. I've seen that in the past too, and then their life just explodes. And you go, "Whoa, where'd that come from?"
Yeah.
Because you didn't see it.
Well, I've seen people too go through a spiritual life of church and things like that, and they put up such a front,
Right.
And very believable front. Yeah. And if you're not directly connected into their life, you don't know. And maybe that's something that's in our church culture today is people don't really truly have those relationships with each other.
That's what's important. I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier in the day, that we have to come together and we have to be involved in each other's lives. And, it has to happen. We need each other. That's one of the basic, like you said, one of the basic threes is the church. It's not only our job to take the gospel out and to disciple, but it's there to help each other. Because none of us are perfect, never will be this side of heaven.
Right.
And so we need each other. And when we do step over a line, we need somebody that's got the courage to say, "Hey, you're doing wrong." Or, "If you got a problem, I see you're hurting. How can I help you with it?"
Right.
And a lot of times people just don't get that. And they assume, like, you take a pastor and say, "Well, he's got to have it together. He's got to have it all. He's got to be working on all cylinders there."
Yeah.
And no, pastors, they go through a whole lot of the same stuff. I mean, like I said, I was telling you earlier, Luther, he went through great bouts of depression.
I would think, and I would think that pastors go through a lot.
Well, the burden.
It's worse. I mean, and you don't want to sound. I don't want to sound elitist, but I think pastors go through a lot worse of that stuff than anybody does.
Well, first, he's probably got the devil coming at him 90 miles an hour. Plus, he's got to deal, he has to deal with all these different situations that people do come to him with their problems. Right. So all you're hearing all day long is different problems. But you do have Christ there to help you through those and to help them. But when we start relying on ourselves, you're going to end up doing something you shouldn't be doing.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And here's too, he was a pastor, and all that stuff. And I read here it goes. I listened to a podcast the other day. I shared it on Facebook.
Was it Wretched Radio?
Yeah. It's liquid gold. Tom Rainer, he's got Rainer on Leadership. He's got a podcast that I listen to and subscribe to, and I would suggest others, especially for Christian or leadership, to do that. But he posted 7 ways to hurt your pastor, and here are the 7 ways, and he explained it really well. And I like Tom Rainer too because he gives it from a leadership perspective.
Right.
But 7 ways that you hurt your pastor, and these. I mean, I could testify of these, just being a part of all that. But first one is criticize the pastor's family.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big one,
right?
Number 2, tell pastors they are overpaid. Coming from a perspective of this, you're not.
And they're not overpaid.
They're never ever. I mean, if you're truly pastoring, you're not overpaid.
Right.
Number 3, don't defend pastor when they are attacked. People don't defend the pastor when they're attacked. They take a very passive way of that, and defend your pastor. 4, tell the pastors or pastor they have an easy job.
They'll say, walk a mile in my shoes or something.
Look, I am not a pastor.
Right.
I am pastoral staff.
Right.
I have been pastoral staff for many of my, most of my young adult to adult life.
Right.
So I've been very close to the pastor and pastors. It's not an easy job.
No.
And that's why when I felt that calling or that direction in my life, and I talked to a pastor about it. Talked to one of my pastors about it, and he told me, he said, if there's anything else you can do, go do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. It's gotta be God, and it's because it's not easy. Because you're dealing with people, duh. Number 5, be a constant naysayer and critic.
Well, yeah.
That does it, right?
Yeah, that's in any church, I think. Just about, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely.
It's like, why are you there? All you're going to do is criticize the pastor, yeah.
And then number 6, make comments about the pastor's personal expenditures.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, if it's a true pastor, that pastor is spending a lot of their personal expenditures on you.
Right.
I mean, that's just
Because we don't see what they do.
right.
You know, we don't know how you may help somebody, and we'll never know.
Right.
Because you're not going to come out here and broadcast it to you, which, you know, that's the way it is, you know. But don't assume they're all Kenneth Copelands or somebody, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're actually out there doing the work and out there giving everything away, you know, to Christ. And, you know, and here we are, we want to turn around and treat them like what? You know, like there's some kind of servant. I mean, beyond servant. I mean, this is more of our personal slave, you know.
Yeah, a true pastor will. It's about the people.
Yeah.
You know, and so if it's about the people, then you are going to even go even beyond Sunday mornings and Wednesday
Right.
nights and all the usual typical church culture that we see today. You're going to be in the people's lives, and it's even going to go beyond the hospital visits. You know, it's going to be you're going to be in people's lives, and that takes time, that takes money, it takes all that. And I know my pastor he spends tons of money on me because it's like, okay, let's go get a cup of coffee, let's get a Coke, you know, or whatever. Or even those times that I'm down and out and I don't have, you know, I don't have $5 to my name. You know, those are the things that do it. And number 7, compare your pastor's preaching negatively to other preaching. That's just dumb.
That's real dumb.
That's real stupid. So,
Well, I don't know what happened there, and we really don't know the man's mind or all the circumstances involved in it. We can do all that, you know, Monday morning quarterbacking here, looking back what coulda, mighta, shoulda, but didn't happen, and the man took his own life. But he's in the hands of the Lord now, and we'll leave it there. Do we be able to come up with a solid answer for that, except put your life in the hands of Christ?
And I imagine for Jared Wilson, if he, you know, being a pastor, a lot of that probably, because you're dealing with people, you're counseling with people, especially those people that are suicidal or going through that, you're probably getting this deal. He wrote a book called Jesus Swagger, Break Free from Poser Christianity. I read that book. I have it on my shelf right now. It was a good book because it talked about how a lot of Christians they're posers. They're not really following Christ. They're not really Christ-like. They live double lives. A very, very good book. And you know, I'm sure it got to the point, but I guess part of my question to that still too is, where were the people in his life?
Right.
Where were the close people, the leadership, the congregation, the pastoral staff, however you want to label it, in his life, to not just to recognize what's going on, but for him to even come to and talk to. You know, where was that at? And we need that. We need that as Christians. We need that as Christian leaders.
Well, I think pastors especially need people that they can go to and confide in.
For sure.
And because, I mean, the burden that they have is enormous. And we just take a boy, he comes in on Sunday and gets up there and preaches a sermon, and he don't come back till next Sunday. Well, that's not true. Like you said, he's at the hospital. He's with people that are grieving over a lost one or doing a funeral, and then the good times where he's there at the birth of a baby or a wedding or something. I mean, there are good sides to that.
Oh, yeah.
But then you got those that, you know, they're just going through all kinds of misery in their life, and they come and want to talk to him about it. And then we act like, well, his job, it can't be hard. It's got to be easy, You show up once a week, do some preaching, and go home, That's crazy. I mean, we need to support our pastor more and more, and everybody should be praying for him daily.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things we can do.
That's one of the best things we can do is make sure that we are praying for our pastor and for all of our leadership, you and our deacons and even our teachers and everything else that come in contact with all the people in this church, so that you guys need it, and we should be praying for all of you.
Right.
I mean, this isn't easy, and the devil's going to come against all of us, but I think the ones in the leadership he really comes after.
For sure. I mean, if you take the head out,
yeah,
hey, then the organism dies, right?
Right.
Now, our head obviously is Christ, but he has put those people in place and under leadership, as pastor, as an under shepherd,
right,
and this like that. But my gosh, that attack is and the family. It's attack on the family and relationships and things like that. And maybe that's what was kind of happening with Jared Wilson in this. And
well, like I said, we'll probably never know. So,
no.
Like I said, that's in the Lord's hands now, and we'll just leave it at that. And hopefully, we'll just learn to surrender ourselves to the Lord and understand there's nothing too big for Him. I mean, He's got everything. He's omnipresent, omnipotent. He's everywhere. He's not going. Christ can't fail.
No.
No way.
Ever.
If you completely surrender it to Christ, He will not fail you. You may not like what you have to go through. You may not like, exactly how He wants to do it in the end. But He will not fail.
Well, maybe that's the problem. We're not really surrendering to that.
We got to understand that regardless of what's going on, Christ will not fail. He will not fail you. I will never leave you nor forsake you.
That's right.
And He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. And He cannot fail if you give it to Him. If you're trying to do it yourself, you're probably going to fail just about every time.
Yeah.
But it has to be Him. And we need, what did Paul say? No longer I live, but Christ who lives in me.
That's right.
Well, get out of the way and let Him live in you. That's the whole point. Let Christ live in you and through you. And remember, He can't fail. I fail all the time, but He can't.
That's right.
And anything He wants done, if I'll pursue Him, He'll lead me to get that done. If it's Him, because He won't fail. And if I fail Him, He'll push me out of the way and find somebody that will get it done. And that's all there is to it. Because He's on a mission. His mission is to save people, not just so they can go to heaven, so they can be involved in a personal relationship with Him and the Father. And that's why He came. He came so we could have a relationship with Him. And everybody, well, I want to go to heaven. Well, you got to have a relationship, I think, with Him if you want to go to heaven, because you don't want to go out there and live with a stranger. I don't know about you. I want to know Him. I want to know who He is, and I want to spend time with Him. And if you learn to love Him and spend time with Him down here, you're going to desire to want to do these things. And if you keep following Him and let Him do it, He can't fail. We can fail. He can't. So if this church is on the right mission, it won't fail. It can't.
Well, let's talk about the things that disrupt that. Let's talk about the things. What are the things that get in the way of that relationship between us individually as a Christian to God, and then also the relationships of us and our church, and then the relationship between the church and the job we got to do? Because I think that maybe all those are the same.
Right.
The things. So,
right.
Number one, I'd probably say, to be, I guess, more specific, I would say, let's say money. Money. The...
Cha-ching.
Yeah. Cha-ching! Money!
Yeah, right.
Who sings that?
Yeah, them.
Money!
Yeah, them.
I can think of the tune, but anyway.
Anyway,
money. The idea of money, and money it's a thing. It's what we do to what we have. We work for, hopefully work for, to receive money, to have commerce, and to pay the bills. And as Christians, as churches, money can be a be a huge distraction in that.
Right. That's Pink Floyd, by the way.
Pink Floyd, that's right. That's right. Did you ever watch The Wall?
I've never watched it.
I watched it. I watched it when I was probably 14.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Crazy, yeah. Well, see, one of the problems with following Christ is we tend to get off track onto a different subject. We get our mind off Him and go to something else.
It's
right in the middle of what you're giving and what you're talking about.
Anywho, rabbit trail.
There we go, down another trail.
So time, we can also put time in there, some money and time. Those can probably go hand in hand.
Well, I got a question, and this here has been on my mind here lately. I don't know if he's doing it or just some of my craziness. But anyway, that we have two worlds here, and we're born into the physical world, and we're raised in that physical world. Then once we're saved, we don't seem to make the connection that we're in it, but we're no longer a part of it. We're in the spiritual world.
Good point, yeah.
And so you have this kingdom of Christ over here, and then you have the world. And that we still haven't managed to take our thinking away from this, where the value is, where life is. And we keep wanting to hold on to the things that only leads to death and destruction over here. And we tend to have our alliances split when our loyalty should just be to Christ, our King, and yet we're still trying to live in the world. Now, we do have to be in the world, and we're supposed to reach the world for Christ.
Right.
But we can't take the connection, we can't make the connection that we see this only as Christianity only as a belief and not as a reality, that we're there now. Mm-hmm. We haven't died and gone to be in His presence, but He's here in us right now. Well, there's somebody inside of us besides us. We're no longer alone. You can never be alone again because you got the Holy Spirit in you. You may be in the middle of a desert island somewhere, but you're not alone. You got Him.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're never alone. But we live in that there, but we can't seem to make the connection between physical world and the actual world with life in it that we should already be living in right now. Mm-hmm. And our loyalty should be to our King. And that's it,
Right.
But we keep making our loyalty to other things, whatever's in the world. Little shiny, sparkly thing. We go, ooh, I could have that. We go running after
Right.
it,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's right.
When we just don't, I don't know if a lot of people don't seem to realize it's not just a belief system or something we believe, it's reality. Mm-hmm. It is life. It's real life. But we come up in the world and we see that as life. Because it's physical, something we can see, we can touch. They don't take no face to, see it, say, hey, that's a cup, It's a cup.
Yeah.
Over here, this takes faith. But it's true. And, I've lived it. If you've lived in this, it's true. When you're living in this. And it's completely different from the other. If there's any change in me, it's not me, it's Him. It's all Him.
It's always.
It's always going to be Him.
That's always. Because there's nothing good. We are not good. The
No,
only thing good that's in me is Christ.
Your movie's on Despicable Me, I believe, is on tonight on one of them channels. But that's me,
Yeah, that's right.
Despicable Me. That's it. That's it. It's all Him. It's His holiness. It's His righteousness. I'm living off His righteousness. I'm also living off that 33 and a half years perfect life He lived.
Yeah.
That's accounted to my account, and man, I'm nowhere near that.
No.
So when God looks at it, He sees the righteousness of Christ in those 33 and a half perfect years of His. And we got papers falling out of the sky here. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesus. But it's that 33 and a half years, that's accounted to me too, even though mine's a miserable piece of junk, nasty.
That's right.
And, but I don't know.
Well,
I don't think we appreciate what's been given is where we're at. We don't see where we're at, or we don't think, I'm not that bad, you that bad. I'm terrible. Mm-hmm. Miserable, terrible person. Yeah.
You're not that bad, dude.
If I had to, I'd beat myself up. Yeah. Man, look at that guy. I go and slap him around a little bit.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, what are you thinking, dude? But anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible that we don't appreciate what's been given us because we don't realize the sacrifice to get 2,000 years away from something. Mm-hmm. And that's something happened back then.
Yeah, back then.
But this is a current thing. Those sins that were forgiven at that cross were mine for today. My sins were forgiven back 2,000 years before I ever came along.
That's right.
How beautiful is that?
We don't think about that because really just getting down to it, we're married to this world.
Right.
And we love the things of this world. And not, again, they're objects, but we turn them into little gods, and therefore it is a total enmity to God, and then that seeps in because believers are doing that. That becomes the culture of the church and so forth, and we get past that. So we got to have each other. We have to have this. We have to have all that in order to survive and grow as Christians and to get the gospel out, which is really our job. We are to get the gospel out so others can trust Christ as their Savior, have a relationship with Him.
But the purpose is that saving us is because He could let us all go to hell. He didn't come here and do anything, because we're all guilty. We're all headed that way
especially
anyway.
You.
Especially me, for sure. I was headed down like a freight train. Brakes went out on it. And it's the end of the bridge, and there's no way. The bridge gave out up ahead. I was headed off that thing in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But He came and He did this for us, and the way that we treat Him. We act like it's no big deal. If I give Him my all because I went down there and I spent 2 hours on Sunday. What more does God want out of me? What does He want out of me? I just don't understand it. And I don't know. How do you get people to understand what's been given to us? Because, He saved us to have a relationship with Him. It wasn't not to go to hell. Mm-hmm. And the reason for going to heaven is you get to go to heaven as a reward for the relationship that you get. It's that relationship that's more important. Now, we may go in His presence one of these days, and then when the new new heaven and new earth comes, He's going to be here. It's going to be the way it was originally supposed to have been. Mm-hmm. Adam and Eve, they didn't choose God, they chose Satan. When they made a choice there, who did they believe? They believed God or they believed Satan? They believed Satan. And so it's been on this original sin's been on us ever since, and we're all guilty. And everything's cursed, even this planet's cursed. Mm-hmm. But now we got a way out of it. And we treat it like it's something ordinary, like it's,
Yeah.
I guess it might be because it happened 2,000 years ago, but my sins for what He did then is being forgiven today. And all those promises He made Himself, and through all the years of the Old and New Testament, He's still doing those.
It's not ordinary, it's extraordinary.
Extraordinary, and, I don't know.
Well, that's a good thought, and let's kind of leave it there as we end this episode. And if you got thoughts, if you got other ways of thinking about this, you got other scripture to back up something, or you want to get on this conversation or any other, you can email us at coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. Also, you can search, subscribe, and share. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check us out on YouTube. Follow us on the podcast app. We've got all kinds of avenue to do this. We want to get a conversation going. This is a conversation podcast. And so let's get this conversation going. We want to hear from you wherever you're at in the world. I know we have listeners all over the world. And chime in. And let's get this conversation going because we have to live in reality. And if we're not living in reality and we have our head in the sand, we're not going to get anywhere. And we're going to have basically a law of diminishing return that's going to get worse and worse, and we're going to be blinded. And so let's do that. Let's do that for the cause of Christ. Let's live in reality. Let's have some discussions, and let's have Jimmy Nick end us on a good note here.
Yeah. Okay. Do I need to put a song on there?
Anything? What you got?
Hey, well, I don't know if I'm going to end with a song here today. I've got
Okay.
to get this thing to work right for one thing. What's wrong here? Yeah, I'll close it out and come back to it. Alrighty here, let's see what we got on this thing. Alrighty. How about if we end with this? And this is very short, so get ready for it.
Okay.
Here we go. I think. What's wrong with this thing today?
Classic.
This is Jimmy Nick saying adios. Phil, what are you saying?
Bye. See you guys. Till next time.
Adios.